Are we going to do the intro? Maybe not. Maybe we'll just jump right into this. I thought I had a full minute. Maybe not. Welcome into your Tuesday Scramble. Producer Mina, a little miscommunication there. Andy is here. Andy, I'm running straight in from CBS Sports HQ. I know you are running in from something else. We are in full-on Tiger mode.
Yeah, I need to get a refresher from you because I was just on with my good friends at Kuzi News, San Diego local television. Shout out the legend Paul Rudy. But from what I've heard, he's playing. He said he's playing.
Oh, yeah. He said, and I quote, as of right now, I feel like I will play. Yeah, he's in. We knew this was coming.
Well, does this, just hearing the words out of his mouth, and I know he answered the question also, do you think he can, our friend Daniel Rappaport asked, do you think you can win? And he said, yes, I do think I can win. Does this change anything for you?
No. This is sometimes you get like, in other sports, it's like coach speak. There's like a Tiger speak that you need to, like, Tiger's always going to think he's going to. A lot of athletes feel that way. We just ask Tiger about it every single time that he plays. So no, I'm not surprised at all to hear him say that. And no, it doesn't change anything. I'm quite optimistic for Tiger, but what I think the optimism for is play well the first round or two, make the cut. Maybe things get a little bit more difficult for him on the weekend as the body starts to ache a bit more. I'm quite bullish on him, but I do not think it is him winning the golf tournament.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a Galaxy Brain take that I will expand on a little bit more in my DFS article on Rick Run Good tomorrow. I think we know that Tiger is going to be AM PM, and I think that PM Friday afternoon is going to be really tough. That's when the wind's going to be the highest, and that's when the greens are going to be at their firmest. So that would probably be my biggest concern with Tiger, is that he's going to see the toughest part of the golf course, because they're going to they want him Friday afternoon on coverage. Who do you think he gets paired with, by the way? When do we get tee times?
Soon. Yeah, it'll be in the next couple of hours, I imagine. I bet you he gets JT and whoever else he wants, right? I don't know. I feel like Tiger handpicks his groups at Augusta National.
As somebody who's backing JT this week heavily, I don't want Justin Thomas playing with Tiger. In fact, I could see like Fred Couples and like another former Masters champion. I hope they don't put him with like Rahm and JT or Rahm and Hovland, or I think that he should be put in a little bit more of an elder statesman category than a top 5 player in the world category.
Here we go. I've got him. They just dropped 4 minutes ago. Tiger Woods will go out 10:34 a.m. Eastern on Thursday with Louis Oosthuizen and Joaquin Niemann.
Huh. Well, I think that's a comfy pairing for Tiger. Probably right. I mean, I don't think those are guys that are in Tiger's circle by any means. I know Louis does live in that area, but I'm okay with that. Strange. I thought they could have gone a lot of different directions, and I was surprised that they went this one. But what do you think?
I like Joaquin Niemann a lot this week, and I don't like that he's playing with Tiger in round 1. Like, I don't need the whole circus from day one. If you're Joaquin Niemann trying to go out and win a green jacket, like, it would have been nice for him to ease into the circus a little bit.
What are some of the other ones? Can you give me some of the other ones? Like, what are where's Spieth and Brooks?
Hideki, JT, and then because the Masters champion always gets the amateur, James Pyatt. Jordan Spieth is playing with Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele. Is that good for you?
Oh man, that's going to be a blast. That's going to be so much fun. That's a good one.
How about Matt Fitzpatrick, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy? That's the final group on Thursday, 2:03 p.m.
Wow, I like that a lot too. What about where's Rahm?
I got more. Yeah, here you go. Zalatoris, Patrick Cantlay, John Rahm.
That's a good one.
So
That's
good.
a really good one. Yeah. Morikawa?
Morikawa is with Billy Ho and Dustin Johnson.
Mm.
Interesting. Billy will do all the talking in that group. Wow.
Wow.
This is good.
I
So good.
like that a
Those
lot.
are the those last like 4 that I read. Those are the last 4 groups on Thursday afternoon. So we'll be waiting a while for those. First group out, Jose Maria Olazabal and JJ Spawn in the 2-ball out early. Andy, let me reset here. So this is your Tuesday scramble. It is April 5th, 2022. We are indeed presented by PrizePicks. We are going to get to props and matchups and one and done selections. We're going to talk about the course, the changes to Augusta National, what we have seen on the prop side of things. There is a huge number of props available. There are multiple holes with single hole props. There are amen corner props. And usually within minutes of us giving out the 4 picks here, those lines change. So Andy, I believe this is by far the biggest PrizePicks slate that we've ever seen for golf.
I can't wait. I was digging into it this morning. We already had a bunch of people in the Slack asking about it last night. We had like slump feels like a harsh word. We batted 500 for like half a tournament and then came back firing. So we're percolating once again. I can't wait to get into it. There were a couple every time on Tuesday, Rick, there's always one prop, one kind of category, whether it's fairways or greens or score, where I'm just like, this entire category is too high or this entire category is too low. And we have a couple contenders for that this week. So I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, Robert in the chat already notices because, again, these lines move quickly, especially when attention is brought to them. Tiger Woods earlier in the week was 75.5. I made a video. I think I might have tweeted it out. Now he's 73.5. So make sure you're logged in. You're ready to rock and roll. The code you're looking for is Rick. The link is in the description, and there is a 100% instant deposit match available to you up to $100. Let's talk about the course a little bit, Andy. Augusta National and is a course that obviously we know very well. We see it every single year. It's the only major championship which we see the same course every year, and your full-on course breakdown is available on RickRunGood.com right now, which is awesome. Now, there's been some changes, right? A couple of greens have been resurfaced. 11 and 15 are now playing longer. The scorecard yardage is like 75-10. How do you think the changes are going to impact the players this time around?
Well, I think it's a combination of the changes with the weather, right? So the changes in themselves are not all that big. It's basically 2 to 3 holes that are really, you're going to have a little bit of a different club in. The biggest change is on 11, where the tee got moved over a little bit and it's going to play now 520 yards, making it, a beast of a par 4. That par 4 actually plays longer than the 13th, which is a par 5. So Rory talked about this in his practice round. Rory said, hey, usually I hit 6-7 iron into this hole. Now I'm hitting 4 iron. And Rory remains one of the top 5 longest players on tour. So if Rory's hitting a 4 iron into that green, you can only imagine what Kevin Kisner is hitting into that green. And same thing with 15, Rick. 15 is a par 5 that is generally reachable by most players, or that's what technology has allowed for in the last couple of years. It's still going to be reachable for the longer hitters and even shorter hitters if you hit a good drive, but it's going to be more difficult. And we saw it last year too, even Rick, with on 15. Once that green firms up a little bit, you have water in front and water behind. So you have to hit a very high approach shot in to hold that green. And now if you don't hit a good drive, you're going to have a longer iron in and it's going to be harder to control your ball flight. So in totality, Rick, I think for me, it just makes me look at distance off the tee and long iron play a little bit more.
I completely agree with you. And not to mention the weather and rain they've had already in the area. And now as we're speaking right now, I mean, they pulled them off the course for weather an hour ago. There's rain coming in right now, which should only make this course play longer, Andy. You can look at the eye test. You can look at kind of the stats. Basically, however you look at it, I think distance is a big position this week.
Absolutely. Right. And I think, we're going to get rain for 12 hours essentially as the forecast stands now. It's going to rain all afternoon and it's going to rain through the night. Right. And yes, the greens do have sub air. So the greens should be able to firm up. And I expect them to play more firm as the week goes on. But the fairways are still going to be soft, and that's going to limit rollout, and that's going to make the course play wider. So accuracy may be a little bit less important because the balls aren't going to run as much when they hit the ground, and it's going to play longer. And I actually think that if you take this narrative and you take this angle, there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm sure we'll get to some of them in Prize Picks.
Yes, we certainly will. Before we do that, I've picked out 3 golfers that I want to talk through. If there's anybody else in the chat, do a little bit of a deeper dive on. Feel free, throw some names out in the chat right now. We'll start talking about those guys, but first, we're going to take a quick 30 seconds. Andy Lack is not only the co-host of The Scramble, but also produces his own show, the Inside Golf Podcast. It's available twice a week, focusing on course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategies for every PGA Tour event. Admittedly, I was drawn to Andy for his data-driven approach, which you'll find on his Sunday shows as he breaks down the field. But I'm even more impressed by his passion for course architecture, which offers a different perspective of our great game. Mix those together with insightful and humorous guests who don't take themselves too seriously, and you've got a recipe for a great podcast. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. All right, Andy, let's dive into a couple of golfers here. I see them coming in the chat. There's a couple we can definitely get to here. Let's talk about Jordan Spieth. What in the wild world do we do with this guy? Obviously, the elite course history, the concerns about a horrendous putter, and just kind of the lack of good form, but Of course, his final round before he gets to Augusta, Georgia, he goes out, gains 7 strokes from tee to green at the Valero. Like, what is the expectation for this guy?
I have a difficult time with Spieth because when I do my majors research, like for the majors, I run my data more long-term than any other tournament on the PGA Tour. I think majors are more predictive in terms of you want to look at long-term data with these guys as opposed to who's popping at the right moment. So I'm trying not to overreact too much to one very, very hot ball striking round from Jordan Spieth at the Valero Texas Open in a really, really poor field where he was essentially the biggest name in the field over the weekend. With that being said, it is very hard to not get excited about what we saw out of Jordan Spieth. The ball striking has been the issue with him this year, right? Like that is what we don't worry about Jordan Spieth's putter at Augusta National, although we kind of did have to last year. You could make an argument he would have won the Masters if he had putted better last year. So I think where I stand on Spieth is I'm not letting the hype train overcome me. He's not one of the guys that I have placed a wager on this week, but I think he's a pretty safe bet to finish like top 20. And if he is, he's probably somebody I'll be looking at in DFS. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think I'm like a 6 out of 10 in terms of excitement. I mean, it's not been super great, but he's gained on approach in 6 straight. The putter was horrendous. If I'm just asking Jordan Spieth's putter to get figured out at Augusta National, I don't think I'm all that much, right? And it's just, I mean, the Brooks comment that he made a couple years ago, where there's only 25 guys who can win a major, I feel like that's more true at Augusta National than anywhere else.
I absolutely believe that 100%. And the thing with Jordan Spieth is we've seen him come into Augusta and contend without his A game. Now, let's make no illusions about it, Rick. Spieth was playing unbelievable coming into the Masters last year. His form coming into the Masters last year was way better than his form is now. But I still think you could make a pretty good argument that what we saw at the Valero was encouraging enough for you to believe that he is one of the 12 to 15 most likely players to win the green jacket on Sunday?
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he only has one is insane, which actually I say that, but I don't want people to think that I believe that if you win the Masters twice, you don't get 2 green jackets. Like you don't get, it's the same green jacket, right? Like you don't have Tiger doesn't have a closet full of 5 of them. He has 1. So when I say that, Andy, I know what the situation is.
Yeah, which is that's a very important point to get into. Yeah, that is I'm trying to think. Is that a thing that, like, how long do you get it for the year?
You can take it off the property for the year, and then of course
Yeah.
it's there on site forever, but you can take it with you for a year, and you can
And
go to Good Morning America and all your
yeah.
stuff.
And then they all wear their green jackets for the champions dinner, right?
Yeah, you're actually supposed to wear it when you're on the grounds. So so for when you see Bubba go for the drive, chip, and putt, he puts it on. And when he's not like in practice or play mode, like they're supposed to be putting them on and wearing them around. But yeah, that's it's like one of the weird little quirks of the place.
Which, by the way, did you see Hideki's menu?
So good.
So good.
Love it. Love everything about it.
So good. Like the chicken skewers and the dessert, like the strawberry shortcake, fire.
Dude, Tiger alluded to the things that like cannot be said at that dinner, cannot be repeated from that dinner. That would be one of the places to be a fly on the wall. And what they do is they pass around they'll pass around all the flags and like all of them will sign it. So basically they'll be like, if you were Hideki and you wanted to get, 10 flags signed, they just pass them around the table and everybody signs it. So you walk away with like the past champion signed items that you have. There are stories of guys like taking like the silverware and the plates with them. It's just like, the Champions Dinner is the best.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's unbelievable stuff. I wish we had more insight into that type of stuff about Augusta. I feel like there's so much lore about Augusta that we don't even know in terms of, the behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, that's I was super, super excited when I saw Hideki's champions menu. I hope he is healthy enough to have a legitimate title defense,
Yeah, it would be kind of a shame if he doesn't play or doesn't play well or just battles through it or whatever. Lots of questions about Rory McIlroy. So obviously now 7 or 8 years of him looking to complete the career Grand Slam, played last week for the first time in recent memory, missed the cut, but Andy, maybe Tiger Woods sucking up some oxygen from the rest of the field. Maybe that's good for Rory.
I like Rory this week. I think that he threw a lot of people off his scent last week at Valero. I mean, would I have liked to see him play better at Valero? Of course. But for me, it's more about, Rick, there's so many players in this field where you can have a conversation about where course fit versus recent form versus course fit, right? I think a wet golf course and Rory McIlroy, and he is probably going to be under-owned in DraftKings. It's really hard for me to pass up Rory on a wet golf course. Really difficult for me to pass him up.
I agree. The weapon is still there. The weapon's the driver. The wedge is suspect for sure. But even on tour, he's lost strokes putting in 3 straight. But before that, he's been good. And he's historically, and again, believe this for what it's worth. But like the guys that go back and run the strokes gain numbers for Augusta National, like he's been historically a very good putter there. It's not been a question of the putter. It's been like he just hasn't hit his approach as well.
Do you know, does he go off early on Thursday or late?
If he goes in the final group on Thursday afternoon.
Okay, I like that, actually. I think that's the better side of the draw. So I like that for Rory. Yeah, I think Rory is going to go under-owned this week, which is remarkable at Augusta National. I think if Rory finishes T17 last week at the Valero Texas Open, we're having a much different conversation. So I think you're getting some nice leverage on Rory this week.
Finally, Bryson DeChambeau, self-described as 80% healthy, Andy. Early indications, and I think this will go up. He was like 2.5% owned when I ran the numbers yesterday. I'll rerun them here in just a few minutes. But Bryson's got what we want. He's got the distance. He sprayed it all over the yard at the match play, sprayed it all over the yard in Texas. Boy, I want Bryson, but I'm not sure I can get there.
I think it comes down to strategy and what you're looking for. If you're playing 150 lineups, I think you should probably put Bryson in 5 to 10 of them. If you're playing, one single entry lineup or you're a 4 or 5 lineup guy, I don't know if it's worth taking that chance, but we talk about distance and long iron play. Bryson is the longest player on the PGA Tour, and he's the number 1 long iron player on the PGA Tour. Now, that's not necessarily because he's a prolific long iron player like a Colin Morikawa or a Justin Thomas. It's because a 200-yard shot for Bryson is an 8 iron, when for other players it's a 5 or a 6 iron, right? So he has that huge advantage where the loft of his clubs, like he's going to be approaching some of these greens with much higher loft clubs, which I think is exactly what you're looking for at Augusta this week. With that being said, God, he is so hard to trust. The one thing I will mention, I don't know if you remember this last year, but he was saying the same things around St. Jude last year. At the Memphis, where he was recovering from, I think he had COVID and he had another injury, and he told the media, I'm not feeling great. I haven't been able to practice. And he held the lead in Memphis on the back 9 on Sunday. So I'm not saying this is the same situation, but I think it's worth mentioning that as we've seen with Tiger, as we've seen with Bryson, I think some of these guys like to undersell and overdeliver.
Yes, we've talked a lot that I don't necessarily believe that Bryson DeChambeau is a reliable narrator. I also feel that way about Tiger, kind of in an opposite sense. Tiger just always thinks he's going to win. I truly believe he believes that, but I'm not always sure that both of these guys are necessarily attached to reality. But that's what great athletes, they have that flaw. That's not uncommon. Okay, it is time. We are going to get into the PrizePicks props segment. You need to be logged in. You need to have use the promo code Rick and make sure you're all signed up, because these numbers are going to move the second that we say them. So make sure you're ready. We'll hit them on the other side. All of the tools and data that you see me use on this channel is from my site, RickRunGood.com. RickRunGood.com is one of the largest golf databases on the planet, and it's geared towards making your DFS and betting research process as efficient as possible. There are literally millions of data points in the database, and while that might sound intimidating, the tools that I've built allow you to cut through the data quickly, choose what's important to use, and even build lineups that are ready for import directly into DraftKings. Outside of that, membership gets you access to the Slack channel, currently 2,000 run gooders who are ready to share insights and have a little fun. I love it, and you will too. Sign up at RickRunGood.com. Let's prop it like it's hot, presented by PrizePicks. We are trying to bankrupt them. I think we were 7-1 last week. I think we were 4-0 on Tuesday's show, 3-1 on Fridays, and we got beat by a Siwoo Kim duffed chip. He was green-sided too on the par 5. Just get up and down. He duffed one, Andy, and made par. That was the only, I believe that was the only thing we got wrong last week.
Yeah, we're back, man. We've been on fire, and I think, man, we'll get into them, but I think some of these numbers, like if you have a beat on this golf course and on the weather, I think some of these numbers are wrong, in my opinion, which is something we say every week.
There are so many options. These all can't be sharp lines, especially when the tournament starts and we start to see how they're playing. They've got 5 different holes with single hole strokes. They've got hole 12 green in regulation, hole 4 green in regulation. So there are literally, Andy, some props that are one shot. So if you want to sweat out one shot, whether a guy hits the green on 12 or 4, that option is available to you.
Yeah, the thing that's the best about the Masters is the coverage and how you can watch pretty much every shot on Masters.com, which is like such a recipe for either success or disasters for bettors with what PrizePicks is allowing you to do. So I can't wait. It is going to be a very fun week, and I'm going to be glued to my television.
The 4 props that we have are right now, if you power play them, are 11 times a return on your investment if they all catch. So, Andy, without further ado, our very first Masters prop to hopefully bankrupt PrizePicks is what?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a funny stat with Justin Rose. Justin Rose was the first round leader at the Masters in 3 consecutive appearances, 2004, 2007, 2008. He also sat inside the top 4 on the leaderboard after round 1, 2015, 2016, 2017, and again in 2021. So he has been in the top 4 of the first round lead in 70% of his last 10 appearances at the Masters. And we're asking him to go under 71.5. Thursday is probably the easiest that it's going to play, I would guess, because you get that heavy rainfall on Tuesday night, and the greens probably are going to really start to firm up Friday afternoon once the wind really comes in. I mean, I don't know how you don't play it without Charlie Hoffman in the field taking up the first round leader action. It has to be Rose if you're into that sort of thing.
Justin Rose under 71.5. I had an under 71.5 as well. However, it has just moved to 71. We're still going to roll with it. It's Corey Connors. And Andy, this is what I think the difference between formats. Most people screw this up, right? It's like, well, I like someone here, so I like them in all formats. I bet them to win. I'm going to play them in DFS. That's a flaw in the strategic aspect of this. I'm probably not going to play Corey Connors in DFS because he's going to be like 30% owned, but you're darn right I want him under 71, considering there's a reason he's super popular. He's playing well coming in. He's got a really good stretch of golf played around Augusta National. It's that Thursday low-key vibe. He's playing with his group is Russell Henley and Lee Westwood, which is about as comfy as you can get on a Thursday around Augusta National. Like, this is a huge difference between formats. I'm out on Connors in DFS. I'm in on him in the props.
Yeah, which is a really, really important distinction. You can throw the betting markets into that as well, right? It's like DFS, you're playing against other people. PrizePicks, you're playing against PrizePicks. Betting, you're playing against the books, right?
Correct.
So it's a very, very important distinction. And I agree with you. Connors has been great around Augusta in 2 appearances. He's finished top 10 in back-to-back years. So I really like that one.
All right, let's go to your next prop, and it is a fairways prop. Who is it?
So I went with Tony Finau, who's been unbelievable at the Masters, by the way, over 8 fairways. So Augusta they have the 3rd widest fairways on tour. 8 of 14 fairways, which is what we're asking Tony Finau to do, implies a 57% fairway percentage, which is lower than what you get at Augusta National. On average, like, these fairway props should be higher than 8 because historically at Augusta National, you see average drivers in the ball hitting more like 9 as opposed to 8. And what I'm getting in Tony Finau is a guy that hits the ball really high and long. Why does that matter? Because I don't think he's going to get a ton of rollout in those fairways. He has a high ball flight. So generally where the ball lands, it's probably going to stop close to that point. And because there's so much moisture on the ground too, it makes the entire course play a little bit wider. So now I'm getting a player that's trending off the tee. Finau gained over 2 strokes off the tee last week at the Valero. That was his best off the tee performance in over a month. And you're asking him to do what I think is going to be a very, very easy task based on the turf conditions this week. So I'm soaring over the 8 fairways on Tony Finau. I would have probably played it at 9 too.
Yeah, I completely agree. The fairways one stood out to me as well. I would not blame you if you wanted to take those 3 and run with it, put those 3 in. As we've talked about before, I'm about to go to Amen corner props, which when you start talking single hole or just 3 holes, the variance is a bit higher. So I'll probably have those 3 that we just gave out as 1. I'll probably split them up into 2s, and then I'll put in all 4. But where I'm at here is Brooks Koepka over 11.5 strokes around Amen Corner. Now, Andy, I want to get your thoughts on this because Amen Corner, as we know, 11, 12, 13. It's a par 4, a par 3, a par 5. So if you play them at even par, you're getting around there in 12 strokes. This is asking the golfers to get around there under par at 11.5. And we know 11 is a monster, right? 11 is an absolute monster that is just going to play harder this year. 12 is no small feat. You can find yourself in Rays Creek. Par is a great score around there. And then you're going to get an opportunity at 13, but it's hard to play. I think it's going to play harder this time around with the lengthening of 11 than we've seen before.
Okay, so we're on the same page. I agree with you. I think you should look at overs on Amen Corner, at least at the beginning, just to see, because my belief on 11 is that it's going to bring way more big numbers into play in terms of the water that is on the left side of the green. The other thing about 12 too, and I think this is important to note, yes, 12 is a very, very standard short par 3 in calm conditions. We're getting wind this week, and 12 is one of the biggest holes on the golf course where swirling winds makes that hole completely different than it would play in calm conditions. And we're getting a westerly, not to get too into the weeds with the weather, I'll break all that down tomorrow in my article, but a westerly wind at Augusta is the most difficult and challenging wind for players to have to deal with. So I think that 12 under swirling winds plus the changes to 11, I would probably side on the route of just blindly playing overs on Amen Corner until we at least see, how players start to play them in the first round. And then maybe we adjust that. But I'm with you. I would lean to the overs on all Amen Corner props.
Yeah, the 11.5. You can get like Larry Mize 13.5 or Sandy Lyle 13.5. I think I'll just stick with the guys that we see play every single week. So I'm showing the spreadsheet right now. So I went and compiled because I wasn't sure earlier in the week if the lines were going to be 11.5 or 12.5. So I went and compiled the data for basically every golfer in the field and how often they've played Amen Corner. Armina's putting the link in the description right now. So if you want to access this spreadsheet, you can get it. The link is going to be in the description momentarily. But Brooks Koepka has gone over 11.5 in 16 of 22 trips. And now, as we just talked about, I think it's going to be more difficult. A couple other notables here. Victor Hovland's only played it 8 times, but he's gone over in 6 of them. Russell Henley's gone over 77% of the time at 11.5. So use this spreadsheet. And I think, Andy, you and I are on the same page that we're probably leaning overs here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least let's just see, right? Like that's the beauty of PrizePicks is, they keep them up once the round starts, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more on Friday, but you can watch how a couple groups play a hole and then change how you feel about something, which is something both of us have utilized on Friday a bunch.
So here we go. To recap, Justin Rose under 71.5. Corey Connors under 71. Tony Finau over 8 fairways. Brooks Koepka over 11.5 around Amen Corner. If those all hit on Thursday, you will receive an 11 times return on your money. And I mean, you don't have to win these that often. You win these every few times we give it a crack, and you're a big time moneymaker.
The Justin Rose one feels like I'm not a first round leader guy, but I may even throw something on Justin Rose first round leader. It feels like stealing with the way that we've been able to take advantage of these. So I can't wait for Matt. This is probably going to be my heaviest exposure on PrizePicks yet. And I've been kind of increasing as each week goes on, but I absolutely cannot wait, man.
JetBlue Amigo says it's all fun and games until PrizePicks literally shuts down next week.
Which, I've been worried about for quite some time, but I don't know. I guess they're fine with it so far. So
I think they're good. We've talked about it before. I think they rake in other sports, right? I think other sports that are much more closer and consistent to projections, and the markets are more mature and the lines are more efficient. I just think it's hard to make efficient lines in golf. And then you let me and you go after it. And it's like taking candy from a baby.
I think that's a good take. I didn't think about that, but I think because I've actually dabbled a little bit into PrizePicks football and PrizePicks basketball as well. Let me tell you, Rick, not as successful as I have been in golf. So
Yeah.
I think that is a theory that very much explains it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our head-to-head matchups. We're going to do one and done selections as well, but we're going to do that after a quick word. If you're not playing daily fantasy on PrizePicks, then you're not really playing daily fantasy. They offer nothing but props, and they do it better than anyone else. You pick 2 to 5 players on an over-under and can win up to 10 times on any entry. They allow mixed sport entries, meaning you can take the over on LeBron James and the under on Jon Rahm. The golf-specific props are amazing. Birdies or better, fairways hit, greens in regulation, round score, and now, yes, single hole props. That's right. What score will a golfer make on a specific hole? I have PrizePicks specific tools on my website to help you build the best entries, and now PrizePicks is offering a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just use the code RICK at sign up or click the link in the description. That's code RICK. Good luck. All right, Andy, let's do our head-to-head matchups. Last week was weird because we both had Abraham Answer over Chris Kirk. Answer withdrew before the tournament started, so we wiped that one. That does not count in any direction. And then we both had Rory over Hideki. Hideki played, started the second round and withdrew. Rory missed the cut. Good books would rule that in Rory's favor,
It's a win for us,
which is what I have done. Yeah, I've given us a win on that.
Yeah, that's a win for us. 100%. No, books do that. Yeah, it'd be a different story if it was like Answer where he didn't tee off. But once Hideki tees off, he's fair game.
Right. Okay. So we were so we had 4 matchups that counted towards our record. I went 2-1-1, moving my season-long total ever closer to that 500 mark. Now 19-20-4. While Andy, you've done it again. 3-0-1, an undefeated week, 27-12-4 for the season. You are red fire, my friend.
Yeah, it's been good. And we talk about it every week with these matchups. Like they're not the sexy thing that everyone likes to talk about with the outrights, but it is a very, very good way to keep a consistent bankroll going. And I'm going to continue to try and take advantage of them.
Before we jump into this, can you release the mayor pod so that John can stop commenting it 15 times in the chat? Give the people what they want, Andy.
Yeah, so I've gotten a lot of the hashtag may or may not have been trending on Twitter. Released
probably worldwide. Yeah,
probably worldwide. It's coming, John. It's coming. Here's the thing. It's Masters Week. I'm not going to drop that masterpiece of a podcast on Masters Week, but I think the game plan is Zurich Classic Week, which is going to be a little bit of a lighter content week for everyone, is 2 weeks away. So I think you're going to get it Zurich Classic Week, John, but thank you very much. I so appreciate that you care.
Yeah, appreciate the passion. Stop asking for it. It's coming. It's coming. All right, Andy, matchups for this week. And what did Mina do? Okay, she eased us into this. So the final ones are some big boppers, but she started us with Seamus Power versus Jason Kokrak. It must be the Masters. What side do you want?
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, Mina, 2 guys that I don't have any great takes on to unleash. I think Kokrak, just on the pure sense that Kokrak fits the bill of somebody who hits it long and high off the tee and plays well on longer golf courses and hits his long irons really well. He's won on bent grass before. He doesn't have great history at Augusta, but I will probably take some history at Augusta, even if it's bad, over no history at Augusta. So I think I'll go Kokrak.
Yeah, I'm 2 out of 10 on both of these guys. If you would have asked me this 3 months ago, I would have probably been all in on Kokrak. So he is one of the biggest year-over-year declines in putting from 2021 calendar year to 2022, which I don't know if that has anything to do with the greens reading book situation or maybe just regression, or maybe it's just been an outlier kind of weird start for him. But I have some concerns about that. And you mentioned it. It's not great history. It's like a missed cut in a 45th or something like that. Yeah. So I took the power side, but trust me, there is not real American dollars being wagered on this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's a tough one. Mina is, hitting us with the hard ones right off the bat. I was not expecting to have to unleash a Seamus Power or Kokrak take.
All right, how about this one? Two Aussies, Adam Scott versus Mark Leishman. This is more like it. We at least have one Masters champion in here. I took the Scott side, but kind of the opposite of Power and Kokrak. I like both of these guys. Leishman's been awesome at Augusta National. Adam Scott has the win, but it's kind of like, okay. Besides that, I just think Scott's playing well at the moment. He's got the putter figured out. I took Scott here, but I don't mind Leishman.
Yeah, Scott probably should be favored in this matchup. Scott probably would be favored in this matchup. I just really like Leishman this week. Again, like I'm a little bit worried about his DraftKings ownership. I saw he was kind of creeping up there because he has a very good price. But I think if you want to get more Leishman exposure, this is a good market to do so. So he plays well at Augusta, hits the ball long and high. He's a little inaccurate off the tee. And so that tends to be his biggest weakness. And I think that's going to be mitigated a little bit at a course with the third widest fairways on tour. And he has the results to back it up here. So I'll roll with Leishman.
Yeah. What if I just like the blanket of guys that are like, kind of longish, but like their big flaw is their driving accuracy and their big strength is their approach play. I'm thinking of Taylor Gooch, but I'm imagining there are other guys that fit that category. Like those guys I'm bullish on.
I was literally just going to say Taylor Gooch,
which
is he's the hardest because he's the most mispriced golfer on DraftKings and he's a debutant. But if I was also building a golf course also very good on bet grass and very good on fast greens and good 3-putt avoidance too. So if I was like building a golf course for Taylor Gooch, I would build Augusta. But he's so overpriced in DraftKings. So that'll be a decision I'll talk a lot more about in my Wednesday article tomorrow.
Available on RickRunGood.com. Okay, how about this one? Victor Hovland versus Brooks Koepka. You and I have both gone with Brooks Koepka. It's almost sacrilegious for me to do that. However, that shows how bullish I am on Koepka. So we're both on Koepka. Let's make the case for Victor, right? Like, what's the case for Victor? Because there has not been. I think people will generally just be like, "Oh, you got to be good around the greens." I'm out on Victor, and then you never hear another word about it. What's the case for him?
The case for Victor is that he's neutral around the greens, which he's certainly capable of doing. And that he gains, 5-6 strokes on approach, 5-6 strokes off the tee, which he's certainly capable of doing. I mean, look at what he did at the Players. Look at what he did at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Like, Hovland is in contention to win tournaments like hemorrhaging strokes around the green. If he can just get that to neutral, there's a very good chance he wins. He fits that bill as one of the best long iron players in the field, has a very high ball flight, great driver of the ball, plenty long off the tee. I think the biggest issue that you worry about is, it is harder to get up and down at Augusta National. The degree of difficulty on these chip shots is a lot harder than even at TPC Sawgrass, certainly than Mayakoba, and even a little bit at Arnold Palmer Invitational, where at least at Arnold Palmer Invitational, you have that thick rough to help you scoop up and you're not always having to go against tight lies on potentially mushy ground. It's short game, Rick. It's the story with Vic every week. If he can just be neutral around the green, he can win.
And with all that being said, we both ended up taking Brooks Koepka. For me, the idea of a seemingly healthy Brooks for the first time in a long time, a guy that is looking much more like the strong ball striker that we know and love. This was too good to pass up for me.
Yeah, I think Brooks is going to be a popular play. I don't think anyone's sleeping on Brooks this week. But he's been really, you got to throw out last year. He could barely bend over. So that miscut last year, I wouldn't read too deeply into that. He looked good at the match play. He looked good at the Honda. I think Brooks is going to have a good week, which is not a hot take.
Yeah, both of us on Brooks and both of us on Justin Thomas over Cam Smith. I know you have and I have as well. I mean, this has been building for Justin Thomas for months, and I think a lot of us had him kind of circled for this spot, but now we're running up against one of the hottest golfers on the planet.
Yeah. And I laid out a big time case for him in the podcast. I didn't even talk about one thing too, Rick, is that we're going to get more wind than we usually get. And so I've already mentioned that we're going to get a westerly wind. Who knows how to navigate a westerly wind at Augusta? Jim Bones McKay, right? So I think the windier that it gets at Augusta, the more that you're going to have to rely on experience. Bones is the type of guy that can say to JT when he steps on the tee at number 12, hey, dude, I've seen this before with Phil. I've seen it a dozen times before with Phil. Here's what you want to keep in mind. And I can't get over that. I think it was a deliberate, intentional hire. It's like when a NFL head coach gets, like, an offensive minded NFL head coach gets hired to be paired with a great quarterback and really bring out the best in that quarterback. Like, this is what we're dealing with here with Bones and Justin Thomas winning the Masters. So, as you know, I'm all in on him. Unfortunately, I burned him already in one and done, which we'll get to a little bit later. But
we will get to that just a little bit later, and I'm very excited for that moment.
But yeah, I think Justin Thomas wins the Masters this week.
Ross says, any chance of it being preferred lies this week at all? That would certainly help Vic's game around the green. No. I mean,
I don't think so.
The Master for like 60 years, they never did it. It was just mud ball central. If you got a mud ball, sorry, bud. It's golf. Good luck. Everybody's dealing with the same situation. I can't remember if they did it in 2020. That's like the most wet I remember it being because it was in November. But so I don't know if that is still true. But until as of 8 years ago, they had never done lift clean in place ever. So I can't imagine it's coming.
0% chance, in my opinion. If it rained Wednesday night, all night Wednesday, as opposed to all night Tuesday, I would say maybe. But I think having Wednesday to dry it out a little bit, we're not going to get preferred lies.
I just don't think they do. Because remember, this is not the PGA Tour. This is the Masters Committee. They're just like, no, screw it, man. Sucks for you. Everybody's dealing with the same situation. No problem. It's golf. Finally, let's wrap the head-to-head matchups here. Colin Morikawa versus Jordan Spieth. We're on opposite sides of this. What side would you like?
I went with Spieth. I think this is a good way to get some Spieth exposure. I'm a little bit worried that Colin Morikawa hates hitting a draw. I just that's the one thing where it's just I don't know yet. I've gone back and forth 15 times on whether Morikawa is a good fit for Augusta. It's yeah, I get the iron play. That's the obvious thing that everyone's going to talk about. But is this really, really a course that plays into his strengths? You could argue his weapon just as much as iron play is how accurate he is off the tee. And I don't think that skill gets accentuated as much at Augusta. I've gone back and forth on Colin a million times. I'm just going to take Spieth here, though.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the draw because this was kind of the thing that pushed me into Colin Morikawa's side for this one. He had spoke, I believe it was yesterday, Monday, at his presser, or maybe somebody asked him about it on side. I don't remember, but it was in the last couple of days about how he felt like he had come to Augusta National and played it completely different than his normal golf because he was trying to hit draws everywhere and that's not his normal thing. And it was almost like he had gotten some advice and he decided that he's going to play his game at Augusta National, that little baby cut or whatever that he wants to play, and just see how it fares. Now, I thought that was kind of an interesting little breakthrough opportunity, but I don't know, man. You're right. The draw is, the ideal ball flight, but I think he could get around without it. Can he?
Yeah. Well, again, this is so in the weeds, but a westerly wind, I don't think you want to play a cut in a westerly wind if the wind's coming from. I'm so glad you've given me a platform to talk through all of this stuff in my articles and my course breakdowns. I don't need to get into the westerly wind stuff right now. I'm going to take Spieth because I trust him more at Augusta National.
Fair enough. I'll take Colin Morikawa and we will see blood there. Okay. One and done selections. Mina, pull up the standings, please. So, this was so annoying. We didn't even do a Valero recap because obviously it's Masters week, whatever. We can talk about JJ Spawn. Mav McNeely started the final round in the hunt, baby. He was in it. I think he was 2 back. He drops to whatever, gets $41,000. And then, of course, Adam Hadwin shoots like the round of the day, flies up the leaderboard, gets you $344K, Andy. I was so annoyed on Sunday.
So I kind of feel like I'm stealing a little bit here. So this is the second time that my guy has withdrawn. I think I had Berger at Pebble Beach and I replaced him with Fitzpatrick, who finished like 6th. Yeah. And I replaced Answer with Hadwin at the 11th hour, and Hadwin finished 4th. So, comfy lead. Does it change your strategy at all?
Not yet. I mean, it's still, I think we just hit the halfway mark last week. So not really. And it's a lot easy for me to say, who has not cracked through $1 million yet. It's a lot easier when you're only going up against one person, because even when I do have to be different, I'm never going to have to be that different. So it's really hard for me to not just like chalk it up most weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I think with McNeely, he was a good pick. I thought McNeely heading into round 4. Like I think McNeely he was somebody I was looking at live to bet. I glad I didn't end up making that. And I stuck with my guy JJ, who made many Rick Run Good subscribers a lot of money last week, by the way.
The tweets. I always love that when, somebody wins and it's just the Slack lights up with the screenshots, or Twitter lights up with the screenshots. It's always fun.
Yeah. So shout out. We had a lot of JJ Spawn guys doing well in the Slack. So yeah, I feel good about my position. I've used some heavy hitters, but I've still got some in the holster. So I'm feeling good as we enter Masters week.
All right. Well, it's the Masters. So why don't you deploy one of those big boys right now? Who do you want?
Dustin Johnson. Okay. So I think that JT is going to win the Masters. I've used JT in Phoenix and he got me like an 8th. Okay.
Yeah, 400,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So for me, Rick, it was between DJ and Cantlay. And I wanted to save Cantlay I like him at some of those FedEx Cup playoff events when it gets really hot in August, and like a Memorial, right? And on bent grass later in the year. He's won twice at Memorial. I think DJ is going to be great this week. I think I don't know how I'm going to get down on him in other markets. I don't have room for him in my outright card. I'm not quite sure what the ownership is going to be yet on DJ. I could see him catching steam. I could also see him going under-owned. I think he's kind of middling right now, not the most popular guy, but not sneaking up on anyone either. I think it's a good spot for him. What do you think about, what's your take on DJ this week? Do you think like he's flying under? Are we talking enough about DJ? Like, where do you stand on DJ entering the Masters?
Yeah, I think he is flying under the radar a little bit, right? I mean, not only because you've got, the Scotty Schefflers of the world. Now Tiger throws his hat into the mix. You got the young guns. I mean, there's just so many other guys. And DJ's he's been good. He hasn't been great, but he's been pretty darn good. And we're starting to see him round into form. I'm worried about this. I think DJ could have quite a big week.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a good spot for him. The Masters that he won in 2020, also a very soft golf course. Yes. I think it's going to play a lot more difficult this year than the 2020 Masters, because
they smashed like every scoring record that year.
Yeah, because you're going to get the greens will firm up as the week goes on. But yeah, I'm going to rock with DJ here. I feel pretty good about that.
Okay, well, Dustin Johnson for you, Andy, and I am going to give you a taste of your own medicine. I have been chatting with you on a multiple time per week basis for the last however many months, and I know that the guy that you think is going to win this week is Justin Thomas. And I, too, really like Justin Thomas, but I narrowed it down. Maybe I was going to go with Brooks. Maybe I was going to go with JT. Maybe I was going to go with somebody else, and I looked through our little spreadsheet and saw that you had already used Justin Thomas. And I thought nothing would be sweeter than if you, Andy, get to be correct on Justin Thomas winning the Masters, slipping on that green jacket from Hideki Matsuyama, and me getting the $2 billion in the one and done. I'm going with JT.
I can't. It's a smart play. I can't argue with it.
I love it.
Is it 2 million this week?
Yeah. So the purse is 11 and a half. So I think it's like 2.03 or something.
Okay, so you're right there. You're right back in the mix. If you get this one, which I think you will. I think JT will win the Masters. So okay, all right, game on, man. Let's see what happens.
Game on. The Masters not even close to kicking off yet, and lots more content to come. Andy, you are going to join us on some first cut stuff this week. I've got some more stuff coming out, but this is obviously our, content creation. I don't even know what word. It's huge.
Super Bowl. Yeah,
it's going to be more.
Yeah, Super Bowl. We've got a ton of stuff lined up. You're coming on the Major Report tonight, I believe, as well. So super excited for that. Super excited to do some first cut stuff with you, to make my first cut debut on Wednesday and Thursday. And let's have a day. How are you spending the rest of your Tuesday? Like, how many more recordings do you have to do?
Let's see. I'm going to the first cut in 3 minutes. Then I'm going player by player with Pat Mayo.
That'll be fun. I'm excited for that.
That takes like 90 minutes. So that's going to be a big chunk. Then I get a little bit of a break, and I'll probably have to do some HQ stuff. But I'll be on VSiN tonight at 7:45 p.m. and then coming on with you guys at like 9 or whatever time that's going to end up being.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'll let you get to it. I know you got first cut in a second, but always a pleasure, man. And we will be talking a lot more later this afternoon and in the week.
We will. Andy Lack, available on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. His articles that are phenomenal on RickRunGood.com. Check those out. You can follow me at RickRunGood. Sign up with the code Rick. The link is in the description. PrizePicks, take their money, bankrupt them, put them out of business, do everything you need to do. We'll see you on Friday.